Talking about here on my channel right now. It's all about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively's.
The morning air was crisp, tinged with the faint scent of November chill. As Las Hari stepped into the glow of his studio, the world outside still yawning awake. It was November 21st, 2025, and though it was a Friday, the weight of the week had already settled heavy over him. He had pored over every story, every whisper, every pulse of the internet for his audience's morning ride. And today, one story above all demanded his attention. The feud, the scandal, the legal battlefield of the year, Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively, had taken yet another sharp, unexpected turn. One that made the entire celebrity world lean in and hold its breath. But this wasn't just another tabloid rumor. No, this was becoming something darker, more dangerous, and Las Hari could feel it in the bones of the story before him. The first tremor came from Marcos, a content creator whose rise had been meteoric, yet mysterious. Known as Be Better, Marcos had captivated millions with a mix of piercing insights and viral charisma, but by summer, he had vanished from the digital world without warning, leaving fans confused, disappointed, and hungry for answers. Now, months later, he returned, creating a single video that would ripple through the world like a stone cast into a still pond. His claim was audacious. He had information, explosive information, that could shift the balance of celebrity perception forever. He hinted at Blake Lively, at Ryan Reynolds, at secrets that could fracture careers and reputations. The video spread like wildfire, and then suddenly it disappeared. Marcos's account was banned. The timing, the audacity, the silence, it was all too perfect, too deliberate. But the story refused to die. The account resurfaced, battle-tested and defiant. Now, 157,000 followers clung to his every word, and Las Hari knew the stakes had escalated. This was no longer just a social media hiccup. This was a seismic shift in the celebrity landscape. Some dismissed it, calling it clickbait, a desperate play for attention. But those who knew the industry whispered differently. Marcos wasn't just seeking fame, he was hunting truth. And the truth, as he promised, was dangerous, illegal, and deeply unsettling. Sweet and Salty Lynn, a sharp and resourceful TikTok voice, became the bridge between rumor and verification. Through her, Las Hari learned that Marcos had reached out to Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, the man who navigated the treacherous waters of celebrity law with precision and cold calculation. Marcos's approach was methodical, cautious, yet resolute. He was not a reckless leaker. He was a seeker of justice, a man willing to risk scrutiny, harassment, even the fury of Hollywood elites, for the sake of exposing what he knew. And yet, Las Hari's skepticism could not be tamed. The entertainment news world was riddled with exaggeration, hyperbole, and a relentless hunger for clicks. How could one discern truth from fabrication in a sea of performative outrage? Marcos's silence over the past months, his sudden reemergence, the ban, and reinstatement. It all suggested something profound, something hidden behind the polished smiles and scripted statements of Hollywood's finest. And Las Hari could feel the story pulsing beneath it all, alive, waiting for the right journalist to wield it like a scalpel. Meanwhile, the world outside Hollywood was descending into its own storm. Las Hari pivoted seamlessly between narratives, a masterful conductor of chaos. In New York City, the freshly elected mayor Zoran Dani was stepping into the crossfire of political warfare. Tweets, accusations, veiled threats, the language of power had become lethal. Las Hari narrated every line, every hesitation, every public statement, aware that this was history in motion, unfolding in real time for a captivated and horrified audience. Dani's resolve, the president's provocations, the carefully choreographed statements of press secretaries, all of it painted a world on the brink, where words themselves had become weapons sharper than any sword. Back in the realm of entertainment, Las Hari's thoughts circled the Marcos situation again. There were journalists afraid to report on what Marcos knew, paralyzed by the potential consequences. Hollywood elites, whose names were household fixtures, had the power to ruin careers, silence dissent, or manipulate the narrative with a single call. Yet Marcos persisted. He sought someone who could navigate this minefield, someone who could uncover the truth without being swallowed whole by the machinery of fame and litigation. Lashari could not help but admire the audacity, the courage, and the singular obsession with exposing what was hidden beneath the surface of glitz, glamour, and strategic smiles. And then, there was the looming shadow of legality and morality. If Marcos's claims were true, and Friedman had agreed to investigate, the repercussions could cascade through Hollywood, shaking the foundations of trust, reputation, and power. Lashari imagined Blake lively reading the headlines, the tension tightening in her chest, while Justin Baldoni prepared, always the poised figure, for whatever storm was coming. Every tweet, every TikTok, every leaked rumor became a chess move in a game that no one outside the inner circle could fully comprehend.
I don't think I relate to any of my characters. I've played a crack addict from Boston. I've played an Upper East Side princess.
Yet amid the high-stakes tension, Lashari never lost the pulse of humanity, of the raw emotional undercurrent driving these stories. There was fear, ambition, desperation, and, in rare moments, a glimmer of justice. His own hands trembled slightly as he prepared to share these updates with his audience, aware that millions would be listening, reacting, judging, and speculating. The world was watching, and in that observation, power shifted quietly yet irrevocably. As the narrative stretched outward, Lashari's voice threaded together the strands of chaos. Marcos and his band account, the legal maneuverings of Friedman, Blake and Justin's precarious positions, and the wider political unrest threatening to spill over into public consciousness. Every element intertwined like the tendrils of a storm, each action amplifying the next, until the entire scene shimmered with tension, uncertainty, and a hunger for truth that refused to be silenced. By the end of the morning, Lashari paused, taking a breath heavy with the weight of revelation. The audience would not just consume the story, they would feel it, live it, and perhaps fear it. For in the space between whispers and headlines, between TikTok clips and courtroom walls, a new reality was forming. One where power was contested not just in offices or courts, but in the hearts of those willing to seek the truth, expose the deception, and stand unflinching against forces far greater than themselves. And somewhere, behind the glimmering city lights and the quiet hum of digital screens, Marcos watched, calculating, waiting for the right moment. Lashari knew it was coming. The story was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The world of Hollywood never sleeps, and in its shadows, the stories that matter often go unheard until the right person decides to speak, or the right leak surfaces at the perfect storm of attention. This time, it was the whispers surrounding Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, a narrative that had simmered for months in the background, now bursting into a spotlight too bright for comfort. Marcos, the TikTok creator known to his millions as Be Better, had returned after months of silence, his digital absence only adding to the anticipation and the almost mythic aura surrounding his next revelation. He didn't speak lightly. His followers, once entertained by humor and viral trends, now waited with bated breath for what he would share. Rumors swirled immediately. Was he bluffing? Was it another viral ploy to chase clout? Or had he actually stumbled into a story that could topple carefully constructed facades? Lashari, ever the determined content creator with an eye for details others overlooked, decided that this was no story to ignore. He began piecing together every scrap of information available, from cryptic social media posts to public court filings and off-the-record conversations, assembling a map of Hollywood's undercurrents, a labyrinth of influence, secrecy, and reputation management so intricate it almost seemed designed to evade discovery. In Hollywood, appearances are everything, and reputations are guarded by armies of attorneys, publicists, and assistants whose primary skill is shaping narratives, not exposing them. Lashari realized that behind every polished Instagram post, every choreographed public appearance, there existed a network of decision-makers who calculated every move to maintain control, prevent scandal, and protect the personas that fans adored. The tension between what was real and what was manufactured was palpable. Sources, sometimes hesitant, sometimes fearful, began providing pieces of the puzzle. Some whispered about deals struck quietly, contracts designed not just to compensate but to silence. Others spoke about PR teams that had anticipated leaks months in advance, ready to spin, deflect, and dominate the narrative before it could escape. And then there were those who hinted at actual legal maneuvering, a chess game of lawsuits, threats, and non-disclosure agreements so intricate it was almost impossible to follow without losing track of which side was being honest and which was performing. Lashari carefully documented every lead, aware that even one misstep could not only misinform his audience but expose him to legal action from figures who had every resource to make an example of anyone who got too close. Blake and Justin themselves became almost ghostly figures in this unfolding drama. They were present in the media only when required, their statements calculated, carefully measured, and strangely detached from the chaos brewing around them. Every photo released, every story published, was scrutinized by fans and critics alike. Observers dissected their body language in interviews, their choice of venues for appearances, even the phrasing of their social media captions. Each movement was analyzed under the microscope of public opinion, and in this arena, perception often mattered more than truth. The public's appetite for scandal and hidden truths seemed insatiable, and the tension was heightened by Marcos's TikTok, which had gone viral almost immediately before his account was temporarily banned. His return sent a shockwave through social media, proving that even in a world where stories are tightly controlled, a single voice could ignite curiosity and speculation faster than any press release or official statement. Then came confirmation from the one person who could lend credibility to the rumors: Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's attorney. Lashari reported on the developments meticulously, describing the interactions, the phone calls, and the subtle but significant shifts in attention that occurred after the attorney acknowledged awareness of the leaks. This acknowledgement did not confirm the substance of the claims but lent them a gravity that mere speculation could never achieve. Now the story was no longer just gossip. It had entered the realm of potential legal significance, and the stakes escalated. Lawyers, court clerks, and industry insiders began to take notice, and Lashari's coverage became a lifeline for those seeking to understand the labyrinthine connections between celebrity, law, and media manipulation. The human element in all of this could not be ignored. Lashari highlighted the emotional toll on everyone involved. Fame, money, and power do not shield anyone from stress or betrayal. Whispered threats, calculated alliances, and the ever-present public eye created pressure so intense that even seasoned professionals found themselves second-guessing every move. Laughter, loyalty, and trust were commodities in short supply, and in this environment, even the smallest leak could trigger a cascade of paranoia and defensive maneuvering. Every revelation carried the potential to ripple outward, affecting careers, relationships, and mental health in ways that few outside the inner circles could comprehend. This was not just a story about celebrities. It was a story about ambition, fear, and the unseen costs of living under constant scrutiny. As Lashari's coverage deepened, he also emphasized the broader cultural implications of the saga. This was not simply a feud between two high-profile figures. It had become a reflection of how society interacts with media, truth, and authority. Social media, once a tool for casual entertainment, had evolved into a stage for the most intense form of public judgment. Viewers, influencers, journalists, and even casual observers became actors in a sprawling narrative, shaping public perception with likes, shares, and viral commentary. Every TikTok, Instagram post, or podcast episode was not just content but a potential spark that could ignite outrage, sympathy, or controversy, demonstrating that influence had shifted from traditional media to the hands of anyone willing to broadcast a story to millions. Courtroom strategy became another layer of intrigue. Lashari documented how attorneys maneuvered behind the scenes, filing motions, gathering evidence, and preparing for contingencies that could take months to play out. Legal filings that might seem mundane to the average person were in fact strategic, carefully crafted to control narratives, delay outcomes, or secure advantageous settlements. Lashari explained these developments to his audience with precision, making it clear that in Hollywood, the law was not merely about justice but about leverage. Every deposition, every affidavit, every small procedural victory could be weaponized to control the story before it could escape into the public domain. Meanwhile, social media commentators, creators, and fans became part of the story itself. Reactions ranged from fervent support to intense skepticism. Some believed Marcos's claims outright. Others accused him of exploiting public curiosity for attention. Las Hari highlighted this dynamic, exploring how community perception could shape the unfolding narrative, influencing not only public opinion but also potentially impacting the behavior of the parties involved. Social me. I was not a passive observer but an active participant, and understanding this interplay was critical for anyone seeking to grasp the full scope of the scandal. The psychological toll on both Blake and Justin was another dimension Las Hari explored. Constant scrutiny, whispered threats, and unrelenting speculation could erode even the strongest sense of self. Insiders hinted at tension between personal relationships and public personas, illustrating that in a world where every move is analyzed, authenticity often collided with survival instincts. Las Hari captured the subtle indicators, posture, tone, carefully curated social media images that suggested stress, strategic calculation, and perhaps even regret. By documenting these nuances, he allowed the audience to see beyond headlines into the complex human drama beneath. In the midst of this, Las Hari also noted the ripple effects on other celebrities and industry figures. Managers, publicists, and agents watched closely, recalibrating strategies for clients to avoid similar exposure. Rumors of alliances and rivalries spread, each new piece of information adding layers to the already complex web of intrigue. Lashari's reporting connected these dots, revealing how one story could resonate across Hollywood, altering decisions, shaping public relations campaigns, and even influencing upcoming projects. The saga was no longer isolated. It was systemic, reflecting the interconnected nature of celebrity influence, media power, and legal strategy. Every revelation, every TikTok post, and every statement carried weight. Las Hari emphasized that in Hollywood, timing was as critical as content. Leaks released too early could be dismissed. Leaks released too late could be buried under the next wave of news. Marcos's timing, intentional or not, had ensured maximum attention, and Las Hari analyzed the strategy behind the release, noting how understanding audience psychology and media cycles could turn a rumor into a cultural event. This was media literacy at its most compelling, showing how influence was wielded not just by celebrities but by anyone savvy enough to navigate the ecosystem. The story took on a life of its own. It was no longer just about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. It had become a study in modern media dynamics, legal maneuvering, human behavior, and the fragility of reputation. Every twist, every new development, seemed to confirm the old adage that truth in Hollywood was layered, elusive, and often stranger than fiction. Las Hari concluded that the story's real power lay in its ability to hold a mirror to the industry, revealing the tensions between public perception, private reality, and the relentless machinery that maintained appearances at all costs. Viewers were left with a clear understanding that this was more than a feud. It was a cultural flashpoint, a demonstration of the hidden mechanics of celebrity, and a cautionary tale about the costs of influence, secrecy, and ambition. Lashari's coverage reminded the audience that in the world of fame and power, every lie left unchecked had consequences, and every truth revealed could ignite change. The saga remained unresolved, leaving the public captivated, the industry cautious, and the story ready to evolve at any moment. A living testament to the intersection of celebrity, justice, and the human condition in an age of unrelenting scrutiny.